ओमज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपकदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरु श्रीयुतः पदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातां सहगणा रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनासहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपदां सहगणा ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितं च। हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधु जगत्पते गोपीश गोपिकाकांत राधाकांत नमोस्तुते। तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। वंशकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्येव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। Hare Krishna. I'd like to welcome all of you to our Gita classes. We are on chapter 2 of the Bhagavad Gita, which is entitled as Contents of the Gita Summarized. And we are right now discussing the second part of this chapter, which is, so we spoke about the concept of Guru, the first 10 verses. And then the last two sessions we have been speaking about the concept of identity. But within this 11th to 30th verse is one verse, which is a very powerful verse. It's a often hidden verse. Not too many people focus on this verse. But in my understanding, this particular verse of the Gita is one of the most important verses of the entire Gita. And this verse can actually help us deal with so many issues that we go through in our personal lives, if only we can understand this verse of the Gita. So therefore, I'm going to be really focusing on this one verse for the entire session, and this one verse is going to teach us the art of tolerance. And we're going to discuss this one verse in so many details, in so many ways, that it will really inspire you all. This is a session you may want to go again and again and again. You will really want to, hear this particular session probably multiple times. You may even want to share this session with many, many people, because this is a very important session for all of you, all of us on a personal level. And it's a very important session for the world to hear, Having said all that, I will start today's session. This is the verse that I was speaking about. I'll chant this verse, you can repeat along with me. Matra sparshastu kaunteya sitoshna sukadukada agama payano nityas tam titikshasva bharata. This verse talks about a very powerful concept. Let me explain what this verse means literally, and then we'll get into the discussion of specifics of tolerance. So this verse says, Matra sparshastu kaunteya Sitosna Sukadukada. It says that this world is affected by dualities. The word duality means opposites. Shita, Ushna, heat, cold. Opposites, isn't it? So right now we are all in the midst of a massive, heat wave. And no matter what we do, the heat is going to be there. It's not going to go away. And in some time, a few months down the line, you'll be in the middle of a massive cold wave. And no matter what you do, the cold is not going to go away, right? And what do you do when you experience such things? Sita Ushna. Nothing. What Krishna is saying, Agama Paino Nityas Tam titikshasva bharata. Titikshasva means you just simply tolerate it. Sukha, dukkha. Opposites again. Happiness, misery. Dualities. So right now you're going through a misery. Very soon you will be happy. Right now you're happy. Very soon you'll be miserable. Right now it's hot. Very soon it'll be cold. Right now it's very cold. Very soon it'll be hot. What do you have to do? Just tolerate. There are some problems that have no answer. In fact, there are many problems in life that don't have any answer. Most problems in life, what we have to simply do is tolerate. So Krishna is using the word titikshasva. And it's very amazing. Krishna is using this verse right in the beginning of the Gita. So mind you, Krishna began speaking on in the 11th verse of the Gita, right? 2.11, Krishna began speaking. And what is this verse number? 2.14. After 3 verses, he's telling this. The Bhagavad Gita is 700 verses long. There are another 500 verses plus coming up to be discussed. But right in the 3rd verse that Krishna is sharing, he's speaking this verse. Why? He's telling Arjun, I'm going to give you a lot of philosophy, a lot of gyan. But after all the gyan and all the philosophy I give you, the reality is that you will still experience pain when things don't happen the way you want it to happen. And when you experience pain, especially when things don't happen the way you want it to happen, what do? Tolerate. You can write this word on your wall, titikshasva. I'm sure this word is going to be very useful to many of you all in your life, because that's exactly what we need to do. And we need to remind ourselves also, right? Tolerate. Just tolerate. So now to help us understand how to tolerate, how to exactly tolerate, let me give you a very simple way of putting the whole thing across. The art of tolerance is something that is very crucial for every human being to learn. There will be always some people in your life who are there to trouble you. There will be always someone that is there to poke you, make your life miserable. If no one is there, situations are there to make your life miserable. In fact, the worst thing is that we make our own life miserable. Sometimes the biggest enemy is, you have to just look at the mirror. You will find the biggest enemy staring at you. So when we go through so many situations of life, when we go through so much, how do you tolerate? The most amazing thing is what Krishna is telling is fascinating. He's saying, Matra Sparshastha Kaunteya, Sitoshna Sukha Dukkada. He's telling you have, like if someone tells you, tolerate your distress that comes in your way. Understandable, you have to tolerate suffering. If Krishna says tolerate insults that people throw at us, tolerate the heat, tolerate the cold, we can still understand it. But Krishna is telling tolerate happiness also. Have you ever heard this in your life? Have you ever felt the need to tolerate happiness that comes to you? Have you ever felt that I need to tolerate happiness? No. In fact, we wait for happiness. And we have never heard that somebody is telling us, please tolerate your happiness. Krishna is telling us this. Why? What does it mean to tolerate happiness? Tolerating happiness is exactly the same as tolerating distress. Tolerating distress means not getting affected by it. If one is going through a lot of distress and suffering in one's life, and someone can just put up with that suffering with a smile and say nothing is wrong and say that everything is fine, that person is a great person, isn't it? Like for example, I went to somebody's house, and someone's father had died. A very close friend of mine, the father had died. And when I went to the house, people in the house, the dead body was there on the floor, and people in the house were very level-headed, very level-headed. They were talking gently, talking soberly, no lots of crying around, very sober atmosphere. They believed that he has gone to a higher destination. They were philosophically very convinced about what happens at the time of death. So they were not really affected. Someone could lose lakhs of rupees in the stock market, and that person can put up a smile. It's not easy to put up a smile, and it's not easy to say, I'm not affected, but it is possible that someone can handle distress and pain. The problem is when happiness comes, we become complacent and relaxed. And more often than not, we become very proud. Success can enter into your head. Gita does not offer false solutions in life. There are a lot of people in this world who offers very false solution. Like for example, you might find these posters on the Mumbai local trains, Baba Adam Ali Khan promises to deliver you from all sorts of problems, job problem, family problem, health problem, marriage problem, children problem. All your problems come to this one Baba, he'll solve your problems. Gita does not give us such false hopes. Krishna doesn't say that you come to me, take shelter of my feet, I'll solve all your problems. In fact, Krishna says, you follow the messages that I'm giving you, messages of Gita, there will be solutions to all your problems of life. He's not talking about idealism. He's talking about realism. Krishna is telling Arjuna, sorry, happiness and distress both will come to you. Learn how to tolerate both. Krishna is very, very blunt and clear. He's not giving us false promises. He's telling Arjuna, I'm going to give you full Gita philosophy. But after you hear the entire Gita, when you have to kill your relatives, you will experience pain. What do you do then? Tolerate that pain. You may have to do things that you don't want to do for the sake of righteousness, for the sake of establishing righteousness. When you go through pain, what do? Tolerate that pain. You will get an entire kingdom. You will get a massive amount of wealth, and you will be happy having so much. What do then? Tolerate your happiness. Don't be affected by your happiness. It's a very interesting thought process of the concept of tolerance. The virtue of tolerance sometimes is based out of fear. We also tolerate sometimes, isn't it? But when we tolerate out of fear. Like for example, once I was traveling in a local train with one of my friends who was also a monk, and some of our monks wear these khadao, these wooden sandals, wooden slippers, just to help you understand, for those who are from other countries, to help you understand what a local train in Mumbai is. You don't get 1 inch space sometimes to stand. So you get a free massage. All directions, people are squeezing you, and absolutely free massage, and there's no air to breathe at all sometimes, Now, imagine in such a tightly crowded space, this devotee walks in with a wooden khadao, and this, by mistake, not purposely, by mistake, he stamped somebody else's feet. Oh, imagine that man screamed out in pain, and he was almost going to abuse and hit that person. But when he turned around and saw the height and the size of that person, he immediately stopped. He tolerated. But why did he tolerate? His tolerance was not because he wanted to tolerate. His tolerance was, this person is much bigger than me, much stronger than me. So he said, I'll keep quiet. So sometimes when someone is weaker than us, we are unwilling to tolerate him. But when someone is stronger than us, we become meek and tolerant to that person. So any emotion that is inside always finds a way outside. If you have anger inside, it comes out in the form of some bad words. If you have, sometimes you can't tell, you can't get angry on somebody. There are some people in our life whom we just can't get angry with, even if you want to get. We're like desperate to blast that person like anything. But imagine that person is our father or our teacher, What do? You can't do it. You can't blast that person. So you end up, that emotion that is inside you ends up coming out in the form of tears. When you can't express that anger in words, it finds its way outside somehow. Any emotion that is inside has to find a way outside. Tolerance also sometimes is based on positive attitude. One blood group that all of us must have is B positive. You may have other blood groups, that's okay, but a little bit of B positive has to be there in you. And tolerance has to be taught right from younger days. Unfortunately, many of us, our style of parenting, the way we parent our kids, is we make them highly intolerant. We make them highly intolerant because we just pamper them so much by giving them everything virtually that when the world starts refusing them, they just can't tolerate it, can't handle it. So now I'm going to share with you all some tips and some thoughts on how you can learn to tolerate different aspects of your life. Okay. First is, how do you tolerate dualities in life? What is a duality? Let me tell you a small poem to help you understand what a duality is. By rule, man is a fool. When it is hot, wants it cool. When it's cool, he wants it hot. Always wanting what is not. Isn't that how life is? Dualities of life are always there. Opposites. I was once in Bahrain, and unbelievable heat. Unbelievable. That's like 50 degrees centigrade or something like that. I just couldn't handle the heat. Just from walking from the building to the car and from car to the building, it's unbelievable amount of heat. So I asked this one friend of mine who was in Bahrain for a couple of years. I asked him, how do you survive this extreme heat and extreme cold conditions? This man gave me a very interesting answer. He said, the answer is the Bahraini dinar. I said, what do you mean by that? He said, one Bahraini dinar is 123 rupees. That makes me tolerate everything. Very interesting answer, isn't it? So the question is, how do you tolerate dualities in life? Here are three letters. How to tolerate dualities in life. It's called RRR formula. How to tolerate dualities in life. The first R stands for realize the nature of this world. For those who have heard the Journey of Self-Discovery course, you will recognize this term, Dukkhalai. This world is called as Dukkhalai. What is the meaning of Dukkhalai? Alai means a place or an abode, and Dukkhalai means a place of misery. This world, the material world in which all of us are, it's a place of misery. One should not have any wrong ideas or unrealistic expectations of this world. This is not a place. This is a place where not all our dreams will be fulfilled. This is a place where failures and troubles will come our way for the simple reason that this world is characterized to be a Dukkhalaya. Imagine if this world was called as Sukhalaya. You can expect more happiness than misery. But because this world is called as Dukkhalaya, you can expect more misery than happiness, right? We can expect troubles to come and therefore learn to handle it. Interestingly, troubles come when you least expect them, when you're least prepared for them. But when we realize that this world is a Dukkhalaya, when we realize that this nature of the world is Dukkhalaya, it becomes much easier to handle it. The second thing is reconcile the temporary nature of this world. The fact is that everything in this world is temporary, it comes and goes. One day, a king wanted to celebrate his birthday. And he wanted to celebrate his birthday in a very interesting way. So he went to the prison house and he met all the prisoners in the prison house. And he told all the prisoners in the prison house that I will set you all free on my birthday, provided you give me a gift. And that gift should be a very special gift that will make me smile when I'm sad and make me sad when I'm happy. The prisoners are wondering, how do you make a person sad when he's happy and happy when he's sad? They just couldn't figure out a way. And one old man in the prison, he said, I know exactly what to give the king. And this man, he went and carved out a ring. In that ring, it was written, um, this too shall pass. And he gave the ring to the king. The king read that, this too shall pass. He said, what is this? This man said, just wear it and try it for 1-2 days and then you come and tell us whether it works or no. The king wore that ring on his hand and he went, and the very next day, the kingdom was attacked by a neighboring king. Massive war, total chaos. And this king was really sad and really frustrated, very anxious. And suddenly he looked at the ring and it said, this too shall pass. He suddenly started smiling. He felt good. This is temporary, it's going to pass away. And then a few hours later, he got this news that his son had defeated the enemies very badly, and they won the war. He became so happy, so excited that his son has done it, and in his happiness, he saw that ring. And again, he said, "This too shall pass away." He became sober immediately. This is exactly what we need to do in our lives. When you are miserable, when you're going through an extremely miserable situation, just tell yourself this too shall pass. And the most amazing thing about life is this. As I said, nothing in this world is permanent. Everything is temporary, including misery. When we are miserable, we think this misery is permanent. That's when we need to remind ourselves, nothing is permanent, including misery. So right now, if you're miserable, just be patient for a little while. Understand that everything is temporary, including misery. How does one tolerate distress? Knowing well that that distress is short-lived, it will go away. It is not going to last forever. No phase in our life lasts forever. How does one tolerate? Has success lasted forever? No, we fail. Has failure lasted forever? No, we succeed. Has happiness lasted forever? No, we become sad. Has sadness lasted forever? No, we get happy. Has the feeling of being let down lasted forever? No, we get appreciated. Has the feeling of being appreciated lasted forever? No, we do get let down. Nothing in this world is permanent. So we can relax when we are now anxious next, because we know it's not permanent. The next R, so R. The third R stands for repent for the original mistake. Because of my mistake, I'm in this world. What is the original mistake that all of us made? The original mistake that all of us made is that we were all in the spiritual world with Krishna. And somehow we became envious there. And we wanted to enjoy like Krishna. Remember, we had discussed this, the journey of self-discovery, very much in detail. And that is the original mistake for which we are all here. So when we go through difficult situations in our life, let us remember that I made a mistake because of which I'm here. And I repent for that mistake. And I want to work on myself so that I can go back to the spiritual world. And that is so very important for us to experience in our personal lives. So these are three things to be able to tolerate dualities in life. The first R is realize that this world is dukkhalai. Don't expect too much happiness here. Miseries are going to come. Second is reconcile that the fact is everything in this world is temporary. It comes and goes, including misery. It helps us tolerate miseries much easier. And third is that repent for the original mistake of wanting to have independence from God. Now we're going to be discussing about how do we tolerate calamities in our life. I'm sure all of us have our own list of calamities that we go through in our personal lives. And when calamities come, we are least prepared for them. And sometimes calamity can come in the form of chronic disease. The calamity can come in the form of massive failure or even a massive stock market crash. Whenever calamities come, how do we tolerate them? So here are 3 S's to tolerate calamities. Triple S formula to tolerate calamities. The first S is strength. It means a calamity is meant to make me strong in life and let me handle it. One man, he saw a small caterpillar struggling to come out of its cocoon. he was observing the caterpillar very carefully. This caterpillar is breaking open the cocoon and trying to come out of it. And if you have seen the cocoons, they are very tough. They're very hard shells. And when the caterpillar is trying to push itself out of the cocoon, the edges of the cocoon, they're very sharp. They pierce through the body of the caterpillar. Now imagine like a soft, thin caterpillar that's trying to come out of the cocoon, pierces through the body of the caterpillar. And all kinds of liquids come out of the caterpillar's body. It's like suffering. And this young boy, he just stood there watching what is happening. And all kinds of liquids were oozing out of the caterpillar. And he was actually thinking of using a scissor and cutting off the cocoon to help the caterpillar come out. But somebody told him, no, don't do this. This is the biggest mistake you can do. Let the caterpillar go through the suffering. The boy said, why? And the man explained that the liquid that you see is coming out of the body of the caterpillar, though it is extremely painful for the caterpillar, that liquid is what makes the wings of the caterpillar. And it makes it into a beautiful butterfly. If the liquid doesn't come out, there will be no wings. And the caterpillar will never be able to fly and never have these beautiful wings. So all of us in our lives also, we get pierced. We get really hurt many times. Remember, whenever a huge calamity happens in your life, it's like calamities in life are like piercing cocoons. Many piercing cocoons. The shell can pierce our lives. But when we take shelter of the Lord, those same calamities can make us stronger. Lord Shiva tells Mother Parvati, whenever a huge calamity, a big difficulty comes in our life, whoever remembers Madhusudan, Lord Madhusudan, who remembers Lord Krishna, takes shelter of Krishna, then the difficulty becomes his treasure. Difficulty becomes his prosperity. The same trouble which could have pulled him down otherwise, because he learned how to take shelter of the Lord, it uplifts him. It says, I asked God for strength and God gave me difficulties. Why? Because when you handle those difficulties, you become stronger. I asked God for wisdom and he gave me problems. Why? Because by solving the problems, I become wiser. We don't go and ask God for strength. Indeed, we take shelter of God and say to him, the difficulties have come our way. Please help us handle them. So the first way in which you handle difficulties or rather tolerate calamities is by S. First S says strength. The second S is savoring. Let me explain what savoring is. And it's a very interesting concept. There was a devotee in Vrindavan. I was stitching dresses for Krishna, make these beautiful outfits for the Supreme Lord. But this man himself was wearing tattered clothes. Somebody asked him, you're making such beautiful clothes for the deities. How come you're wearing such dirty, such torn clothes? This man, he gave a very beautiful explanation about life. He said, he showed them how a cloth is made, how a beautiful garment is stitched for the Lord. How do you stitch garments for the deities? Use a needle, isn't it? So when a needle is used to pierce the cloth, there is a hole which is made through the cloth with the needle, right? So when I pierce the cloth, I know that the needle is passing and the thread is following it. Similarly, sometimes Krishna puts needles through our lives and means basically puts us through calamities. But if a calamity comes, we must know that a needle will follow. The needle, the thread that follows, the needle is a calamity. But whenever a calamity comes into our life, we must know that a thread will follow. What is the thread? The grace of God. When we taste the juice of a Karela, a bitter gourd, and especially if you taste, the juice of a Karela after, if you taste the juice of a mango, after you taste the juice of a Karela, the mangoes taste more sweeter, isn't it? If you have a good experience in life, after you had a bad one, the good experience is enhanced in its feeling, basically. So, whenever you experienced calamity in your life, remember, behind the calamity is going to follow the grace of God. It's going to follow the thread behind, just like the thread comes behind a needle. One father, he was coming to pick up his daughter from school, and he got pretty late that day to pick up. And it was a heavily raining day. And somehow he reached late and he saw his daughter in the garden playing in the rain, ran to her. And while he was running to her, he noticed something strange this daughter was doing. You know what she was doing? There was lightning and thunder in the sky. And every time there was a lightning strike, the daughter would look up and smile. And this fellow was wondering, what's wrong with my girl? Why is she looking up and smiling like that? He went to the daughter and he covered her with an umbrella and he asked her, why are you smiling, looking up in the sky? The daughter said, Daddy, see, God is taking a photo. Look up and smile, you know. So she thought that the lightning strike is some camera light or something, you know, and God is taking a camera. She's looking up and smiling at the camera, basically. A lot of times, we don't have control over what happens to us. But we do have control over how we react to what happens to us. That reaction is in our hands. And therefore, how we look at it, how we perceive it is very much in our hands. So first S stands for, understand that every calamity has come to make us stronger. The second S stands for savor the grace of God that follows a calamity. The third S stands for soft-heartedness. What is the meaning of soft-heartedness? Soft-heartedness essentially means that God, Krishna, is soft-hearted. His heart is very soft. His heart is softer than the butter that he steals. He doesn't want us to go through calamities and troubles in life. We were the ones who left him. He always wants to help us. As soon as we take shelter of Krishna, he minimizes the suffering that we have to go through in our lives. According to our karma, whatever we have to suffer, he minimizes it. And the suffering that we get is just a token reaction of what we're supposed to get. A true devotee of Krishna, whenever one goes through difficulties in life, not only does he go through difficulties in life and troubles in life with acceptance, but he actually folds his hands and thanks the Lord, saying that I'm grateful to you for allowing me to deal with these sufferings. In fact, he feels that I'm grateful to the Lord that I deserve so much more, but you only gave me so much. Brahma, he offers his prayer to the Lord. He says, Tattenu kampam susumikshamano gunjana evatma kritam vipakam hridvag vapurbi vidada namaste jiva phale dayabhat. He says, Tattenu kampam anukampa. He says, I am so grateful to you for your grace. And he says, even if I'm going through suffering in my life, I will thank you. Hridvag vapubir. I will thank you from my heart, from my body, and from my words, from the words that I speak. I will always be grateful. See, we are grateful to God when he helps us. And we are hateful of God when he doesn't help us. But a good devotee of the Lord is grateful to the Lord whether he helps us or doesn't help us. And that is true gratitude. There was a king who had a minister who always told him, whatever happens, happens for the best. This king was fed up of this dialogue of this minister. Anything happens, this minister would say, whatever happens, happens for good. One day, the king was on a hunting expedition and his one finger got cut. And the minister said exactly the same dialogue. Whatever happens, happens for the best. The king got wild. He said, nonsense. I lost my finger. You're telling happens for the best. Throw this fellow in the jail. They immediately took him and put him in jail in the prison. And then this king continued his hunting expedition. Somehow he got lost from his group. And a group of tribals, they caught him. And they were about to sacrifice the king. Human sacrifice. And just when they were about to sacrifice the king, suddenly one fellow noticed that king's one finger is missing. And they freed him, saying that We can't sacrifice somebody who's incomplete. And they let him go. The king went straight back to the minister and he said, what you said was perfect. Everything happens for the best. But I didn't understand one thing. You didn't do anything, but how come you landed in jail? How is it best? The minister said, my dear king, if I didn't land in jail, I would have been with you in the forest and they would have caught me and sacrificed me instead. So he said, everything really happens for the best. That's what the king really understood. Understanding that Krishna is soft-hearted. We deserve so much, but what we get is so much. That's the third S. These are the three S's when it comes to tolerating calamities in life. The first S is that remember, every calamity is come to make you stronger. Second is that we need to learn to savor the mercy of God that comes after the calamity. Unless there is bitterness, sweetness cannot be appreciated. Third is soft-heartedness. This helps us understand. Whenever a calamity comes, it helps us understand and realize the soft-heartedness of Krishna. Thinking and meditating on the soft-heartedness of Krishna, I understand that He's there to help us. What I deserve is much more than what I am getting. That helps us become manage to tolerate calamities. The next thing is, how do you tolerate criticism? And somebody says, your eyes look like a camel's eyes, or your teeth look like a rabbit teeth, or your ears look like a donkey's ears, It's so difficult to handle such kind of criticism, isn't it? Most of the times when you get criticized like that, when somebody speaks anything bad about you, you come back home, you can't sleep at night. It's difficult to handle criticism, isn't it? 99 people glorify you, but one person insults you. Our mind only focuses on that one fellow's insult, and we completely forget 99 people appreciating us, which shows that we give more value to criticism than praise. Tolerating criticism is an art. It is something that we all need to learn. The same water can make a ship sail or the ship sink. What is the difference between a boat that sinks and a boat that sails? The only difference is that one hole. If there is one hole in the boat, a huge boat can sink. If there is no hole in the boat, a huge boat can float, basically. So similarly, our lives are like ships. We are all surrounded by the waters of criticism all around us. We're surrounded by the waters of misunderstanding, surrounded by the waters of insults. And these waters are coming all the time, again and again towards us. If we have one hole in the ship, that means if you have one hole in the heart, means we allow these insults to affect us. We can choose to allow what is around us to enter us, or we can choose to allow what is around us to stay away from us. How do you deal with criticism? It's very interesting to think about this particular formula that I'm going to share with you all. It is the ICS formula. I stands for improve. When we go through criticism in our lives, when we go through any kind of criticism in our life, the question that we'd ask ourselves is, do we want to prove or do we want to improve? We can go on arguing with people that we are not what they say. We are, and we can broadcast on radio channels. We can broadcast on your Instagram pages and Facebook pages that I am not this, I am this. You find so many people putting posts that I don't care what you say, I care what I say. I mean, basically they're trying to give justification to the world, right? So essentially, we can justify to everyone. We can keep justifying to ourselves. We can publicly profess to the world that we are not like this at all. As soon as there is defense, people think that we have made an offense. A sane person does not try to defend himself. If someone criticizes us, the first thing we should do is ask ourselves, probably what he's saying could be true. Rather than immediately saying, I'm not like that. The problem with us is that when somebody criticizes that, instantly we start defending ourselves. Instantly we start denying that. A sane person takes a moment to consider what that person is saying. Maybe what he's saying is there in me. Probably what the person is saying has an element of truth in it. Always try to look for the element of truth and try to improve. We often think that there is no element of truth. I introspected and found that his criticism is false. There is no basis to it, and that he was envious of me. He just wants to blast me. That's all. So this is usually the way we tend to think of criticism. But it is very important to first spend a moment thinking, maybe this person is trying to help me improve. We're all the time trying to prove that I am right, you're wrong. But rather, we should all take one moment to think, maybe this is a chance for me to improve, become a better version of myself. The second way to tolerate criticism is careful. I stands for improve. C stands for careful. So, okay, we analyzed that what he's saying is wrong. If we know that what he's saying is wrong, then the second thing we should see is maybe Krishna, who is a Paramatma in that person's heart, is trying to tell me to be careful. Be careful that you should not have that quality in you. Krishna may be trying to give us a message. Be careful. Let that quality not come in you. So let us take this as a warning of Krishna to be careful. One time, a very interesting story happened. And it's an amazing story if you think about it properly. In one of our ISKCON temples in America, one of Srila Prabhupada's very senior disciples was sitting and chanting japa. I mean, this devotee has been probably chanting for like 45, 50 years. And he was sitting in the temple and chanting japa, quiet temple hall, hardly anybody was there. And one young man, he walks up to this particular senior devotee. This man is in his 20s. He taps him on his shoulders and tells this senior devotee, "You're not chanting correctly. Pay attention." Now imagine, here is a person who has been chanting for 45 years and a random guy who has probably never chanted in his entire life, who doesn't know how to chant also, he walks up to him, taps him and tells him, "You're chanting wrong. Pay attention." How do you react? So usually, if anybody else was there in this sannyasi's place, you would have blasted him. You would have asked him, "Do you know how to chant? How many rounds have you chanted in your life? You show me how to chant." I mean, he would have gone on and on blasting him. But the senior person did something amazing. He thought about it for one moment. And he said, maybe this is Krishna's warning to help me become more focused and attentive in my chanting. That very day, he began keeping a diary. And in that diary, you note down his experience of chanting for that day. And he would keep noting down in his diary what he has done in his chanting and his experience of chanting. And slowly the diary became like a daily affair for him. And over a period of time, that diary of his became a book. Until today, it's called the Japa Reform book. Till today, hundreds and thousands of devotees across the world use that book, take inspiration from that book for improving the chanting. And how did that book begin? That book began simply because he tolerated, he was able to look at somebody's criticism as a way of Krishna warning him to become careful. And that is a very powerful way to really deal with criticism in our personal lives. And the third way of dealing with criticism is shelter. I stands for improve, C stands for be careful, and S stands for shelter. We should remember that after somebody criticizes us, after everything is said and done at the end of the day, it is only one thing. It is our karma. I have probably abused him a lot in his past life and troubled him a lot in his past life. And now he is troubling me. And now it's like, and I'm paying back for what I had done for him in my in my past life. So when somebody criticizes me, I think that maybe I must have criticized him in my past life somehow. He's giving it back to me now. If I criticize him back again, I'm starting the cycle all over again. Let me not start the cycle. Let me just put the cycle to an end right now and keep my mouth shut. Sometimes keeping your mouth shut is the most difficult thing to do, isn't it? Half our problems will get solved if we know simply to shut our mouth. Of course, school teaches us how to open our mouth and speak, but we don't have any institution that teaches us how to keep our mouth shut. You know, the biggest problems of life don't happen because you speak a lot. The biggest problems of life happen because you don't know to shut your mouth. That's all. So sometimes just keeping quiet, understanding that this is a reaction coming to me from my previous life. I must have done something to that guy. Because retaliating back at me. Now I should just keep quiet. That helps so much, basically. So these are the three ways in which we tolerate criticism. Improve, understand that everything that that is being told to me maybe is an opportunity for me to improve myself. The second way in which we tolerate criticism is by being careful. Know that this is Krishna's way, Paramatma's way of helping us be careful. Even if there is no truth to what that person is saying, Krishna is asking us to be careful and not to be that way. And the third is shelter. It's my own karma that is coming back to me. So why create more? So one should take shelter of the Lord and finish it off. The last thing we're going to discuss is how to tolerate people. People are everywhere around us, isn't it? We find people everywhere at homes, in offices, in schools, in colleges, bus stops, everywhere people are there. And when you find so many people all around us, how do you tolerate them? How does one tolerate family members? How many times does one tolerate, people that are trying to bully us, irritate us, trouble us? How do you tolerate people? I mean, how do you tolerate in-laws? So many times we have to tolerate people. We have to tolerate people, but the question is how? I'm going to give you a very simple formula how to tolerate people. This is called as the FNC formula for tolerating people. F stands for focus. One must always focus on the strengths of people we're dealing with. No person in this world is created absolutely perfect, 100%. There is nobody in this world who's 100% perfect. Every person has strengths and every person has weaknesses. We are not able to tolerate a person because our minds always dwell on the weaknesses or their shortcomings. The first lesson one must learn in tolerating people is always focus on their strengths. There was once a gold miner in America who was very successful in mining for gold. And he was asked this question by a reporter. The reporter asked him, how are you so successful? What is the secret of his success? And this man gave a very interesting answer. He said, when I dig for gold, I don't look for dirt. It's a very interesting answer if you think about it. In a gold mine, you'll find thousands of kilos of dirt and 1 gram of gold. So he said, when I dig for gold, I don't look for dirt. If you look for dirt, you will find thousands of kilos of dirt. But if you dig for gold, you're looking for gold, you'll find that 1 gram of gold. Similarly, in human beings, we are all filled with thousands of kilos of dirt in us. But when you look at human beings, focus on the strength, focus on the gold particle. You'll be able to sift through these thousands of layers of dirt and just focus on that little bit of gold that is there, that we can really meditate on and focus on. Similarly, in order to deal with people, in order to put up with people, in order to love people, and at a very low level, in order to tolerate people, we need to focus on their good qualities and strengths. The more we focus on something, that becomes a part of us. This is very interesting. The more you focus on a particular quality of a person, that quality becomes a part of us. The more you focus on like a wrong quality of a person, that quality becomes a part of us. If we dwell on people's faults, those faults will come in us, manifest in us. If we dwell on people's good qualities and strength, those good qualities will come in us. So first is focus on the good, on the strengths. Second is neglect the weaknesses. The second way is neglect the weaknesses of people, neglect the bad in people. We have to neglect the bad in people. Everyone has idiosyncrasies. Now, what are idiosyncrasies? Idiosyncrasies are peculiar behaviors. Some people say one particular word all the time, very peculiar behavior, strange behavior. Tolerate it. There are some people who move their head in a particular way, move their neck in a particular way. Strange behaviors. Just tolerate it. So each one of us have some peculiarity in us, which is very strange. And the best thing is we can see this peculiarity in others. We can never see it in ourselves. Others can see it in us very clearly, basically. The husband may want his wife to behave in a particular way. She may mess up totally. The wife may want the husband to behave in a particular way. He may totally mess up, But we have to carry on life. We have to make a progress in our lives. So little things here and there. What's the big deal? There are many more important things to focus on. Many more important things than dressing styles and pronunciation styles and doing the small things. We can't just get stuck in these small things and completely forget the bigger picture. Therefore, tolerating people means focusing on their strengths and neglect their weaknesses. And the third thing, how do you tolerate people, is cultivate appreciation. C stands for cultivate appreciation. So we need to take a step from tolerate to cooperate, from cooperate to appreciate. That is when the relationship goes deeper. There was a small child who went to a zoo along with his grandmother. And in the zoo, there was many things. And one of the things that this child wanted to really participate in is a face painting booth. There was a particular booth where they were painting all the kids with animal faces, So this boy was standing in a line to get his face painted. There was a boy standing at the back of him. The boy at the back of him told him, "Hey, why do you want to get your face painted? Your face is already painted. You look like a panther, pink panther," he told him. Because this boy's face was filled with freckles, these pink dots basically. And this boy felt so bad. He came running to his grandmother and was crying like anything. When the grandmother heard what happened, the grandmother said, "Oh, don't you know, freckles are the most beautiful things in God's creation." And instantly the boy lighted up. He was smiling. And the boy said, "No, no, no. There is something more beautiful than freckles in God's creation." The grandmother was surprised. The grandmother asked him what? He said wrinkles. Because the grandmother's face was filled with wrinkles, Now tell me, between freckles and wrinkles, which is more beautiful? Are freckles more beautiful or wrinkles more beautiful? Neither. But the point is that because the grandmother was able to appreciate the child was able to appreciate the grandmother. Similarly, in all our lives, we are all living together, we all connect with each other. We need to learn to appreciate one another for what we are and not for what we expect each other to be. This is the greatest problem in relationships, that we are always expecting the person to come to a certain level. And when they don't come to that level, we find it hard to tolerate. We're just unable to deal with it. We should never deal with the person in terms of what we expect the other person to be. But we should learn to deal with the person in the sense or in the level at which, or we should be willing to accept the person for what he or she is. If we accept them for what they are, then they will accept us for what we are. And that's when it becomes so much easier to tolerate each other. So these are the three simple word formula for tolerating people. Focus on the good, focus on the strengths and not the weaknesses, neglect the weaknesses, and cultivate appreciation. So these are the three ways in which we can tolerate people. So we learned so many lessons on tolerance today. We spoke about tolerating dualities in life. The 3 R's. Realize that this world is dukkhalai. There will be problems in this world. And then we spoke about reconcile that everything in this world is temporary, including misery. It will pass away. Repent for the original mistake of us leaving the spiritual world and coming here. And that is a reason we are in this dukkhalai. Then we spoke about tolerating calamities, the 3S formula. Strength, all calamities that come are sent to us by God to help us become stronger. The second thing we spoke about is savor. Because behind the needle follows a thread. Behind every calamity that comes into our life follows the grace of God. And then we spoke about the third is the soft-heartedness of Krishna. When we experience misery in our life, remember that Krishna is soft-hearted. Especially when devotees take shelter of Krishna, he sends us only a small fraction of the misery that we are actually supposed to experience according to our karma, according to what we deserve. And we should be able to understand the soft-heartedness of Krishna, understand that what we're going through, we deserve much worse than this. And then we spoke about 3 ways in which we tolerate criticism, the ICS formula. Improve, which means that there may be some element of truth in what this person is trying to say. Let me see how I can improve myself. And then even if that person has not said anything that is true, maybe Krishna is trying to help me become careful, telling me to be extra careful so that that quality doesn't come in me. And finally, S stands for shelter. Understanding that this is my karma, it's come my way, I have to deal with it. Let me take shelter of Krishna. Let me take shelter of the holy names. And finally, the last aspect we spoke about is tolerating people. We spoke about focus on the good, FNC formula, neglect the weaknesses, and cultivate appreciation. Appreciation means we accept people as they are, not for what we want them to be. If we accept people for what they are, they will be able to accept us for what we are. And that is the way in which we can tolerate people easily. Hare Krishna. I'll stop here. Any questions, comments, discussions, please? I highly recommend all of you, if possible, during the week, hear the lecture again. And try to really make good notes of it, meditate on it, and probably share with people that are important to you so that everyone can understand these principles and practice them together. And possibly remind each other of it also. Sunita ji.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. I just wanted to ask you, I mean, I agree that we need to accept people for what they are, but sometimes, I mean, probably it's the thing in us that wants to make them better or to help them improve on certain things. Is that wrong? Or is it that we assume that that's what they need to become and they are not cut out for that?
Thank you for your question. Constructive criticism is beautiful and it's important. But before you give criticism, constructive criticism for that matter, feedback for that matter, you need to ask yourself 3 questions. The first question you need to ask yourself is, am I the right person to give the feedback? Sometimes you are not at all the right person to give the feedback, but somehow we think we have the adhikar to give the feedback. We somehow feel very qualified to give good feedbacks to people, self-appointed feedback agents, basically. So first question is, am I the right person? Second question is, do I have the right intention to give the feedback?
Right, intention.
Sometimes we don't have the right intention giving the feedback. We want to simply pull a person down, and that's why we give the feedback. It makes us feel higher, If you have the wrong intention, then absolutely don't give the feedback. Third question that you ask yourself is it the right time, place, and circumstance to give the feedback? Sometimes you may be the right person, you may also have the right intentions, but this may not be the right time or the right place or right circumstances to give the feedback. Like say, for example, if somebody is standing with a plate filled with halwa, like a big amount of halwa,
talk about the weight,
and he's sitting to eat it, that's not the time to give him feedback. Hey, don't eat like a pig,
Yeah.
You can give the feedback later, that's not the right time to do it. I mean, you can probably sit with him much later after he's eaten nicely, then sit with him and explain to him how it's not good to eat so much. So time, place, and circumstance is very important to give the feedback. So these three questions: are you the right person? Do you have the right intention? This is the right time, place, and circumstances. All three, you get the right answer, then go ahead. The feedback will work. If you find these three answers are not right, then please
Keep quiet.
Thank you.
Okay. Pragya ji? Pragya ji, your question?
Sorry, I was speaking, but I was not unmuted. So, Prabhuji, I was just asking that in continuation to the question just asked, is that suppose it is your child, and you are wanting to give a feedback. For example, if the child is, not eating well and you want him to eat right, to lose weight or something. So, means, is it okay to tolerate whatever they are, or is it okay to, help them in the right direction? Not that we are perfect persons, but when it comes to your own family, your own children, or you are not, you can't really allow bad things to continue. So how to handle these delicate situations carefully, and how to get guidance of God in doing this, and to help them better themselves. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you for your question. My understanding is this. Human beings have a very interesting mechanism to, when they are instructed, when they're told things, basically. When they're told things in an instructive tone, they tend to shut down. You tell somebody, do this, or this, what you're doing is wrong. What you're doing is not right. They tend to shut down, basically. Especially with young adults, it's all the more true. But when it sounds like a discussion, when it sounds like you're just triggering some thoughts in them, and they only come to the conclusion that this is wrong, then it becomes a revelation to them. So in today's world, what I suggest, especially for parents, is please don't be in an instructive tone. Please be in a tone that sounds like a discussion. And it's, in fact, when a child feels that I have taken the decision, I have understood my own problem, then the child actually gets fully into it to solve it. But the moment the child feels my mother wants me to do this, that's it. Then the child feels it like a burden. It's not there. They don't own the problem, basically. It is somebody else's problem that they have to solve. So the art of parenting, the whole idea of parenting is about creating discussions that make the child think. So there are many ways to help a child think about these issues that you're talking about, either weight gain or wrong kind of eating, junk food, etc. So my suggestion is to throw thoughts into their mind. See, these thoughts are like seeds, When you plant these seeds into the mind of young, fertile minds, they germinate into crops eventually. You can't expect the crops to grow today. You throw the seed and you go outside, go for a walk. You throw the seed and just go away. Let that seed find its soil and it'll grow. It might not grow for a year. It might grow after that. It's okay. So this is the way I would look at dealing with it. Am I making sense, Pragya?
Yes, thank you so much. And if I may ask one connected question is, when it comes to the office environment and there are decisions taken, and you strongly feel that a decision taken is not the right thing to do, and you try to assert yourself, and still you are either taken on board or you're not taken on board. So how do you tolerate things which for sure is not the right choice for that office decision, and how to just keep your eyes shut? You cannot keep your eyes shut conclusive to keep the environment congenial also, because there are ego clashes that happen, and then you know that there is something which is wrong. I mean, at least to your understanding at that state you think that it is not the right way to do. Then how to navigate through such situations?
Yeah. So in an organizational environment, what happens is opinions. Actually, the greater number of opinions, the better it is for the organization, because it allows diverse thinking. But the same thing which allows diverse thinking can become a problem because there are too many opinions to deal with. Someone is going to feel hurt. The way to deal with these conflicting opinions, or rather, differences of opinions with multiple people being involved, is first build trust in people. So whenever I do corporate events and corporate talks, one of the things that I really help organizations build is do trust building exercises. So when organizations really emphasize and focus on trust building exercises, those trust building exercises actually become the foundation for any team, any organization to bond together. And once you have built trust, then you engage in conflicts, then what you're not fighting against each other. You're only you're keeping yourself on one side, the problem on the other side. So usually what happens is that there are two people on the both sides and they're fighting with each other. But once there is trust, everyone is together and the problem is on the other side. You're fighting with the problem, basically. But when there is no trust, you're not fighting against the problem, you're fighting against each other. So I would highly advise that first, build trust within each other, and then you address problems. That's a much wiser way of dealing with it. Okay.
Yeah, thank you so much, Prabhuji.
Meeraji?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. I wanted to clarify something on the concept of tolerating people. Firstly, focusing on the strengths of the person that we are dealing with. Secondly, neglecting the weaknesses, neglecting the negatives in them. Thirdly, you mentioned cultivate appreciation. Certainly, there is a lot to appreciate in different kinds of people that we encounter. The worst that we encounter do have some great qualities in them. However, maybe they are not good for our peace of mind. So should we still continue to engage with them, or should we prefer to not take them very personally and keep a distance? What should we do on that? Could you advise?
So it's possible to look at different people differently. So with everyone, you can't behave in the same way. It depends on the depth of relationship that you have with people. People who are colleagues, the amount you have to tolerate them probably is on a much higher level, because it's at a professional intervention, right? But in a personal space, tolerance doesn't have so much space as much as appreciation has. So for colleagues and for like the outside world, which is like your outermost circle, we tolerate. But for a circle that is a little more inner to you, we cooperate. And with the innermost circle, we appreciate. Yeah. Thank you. Anything else? Any other questions or comments?
Prabhuji, Hare Krishna.
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Prabhuji, is there a good book with a summary of Bhagavad Gita that we can use as a reference, or after the course? I mean, can you just recommend some book to us which does justice to what is taught in the Bhagavad Gita? Like, some of them are very off track, like the way you said once. So is there something that we can, a summary of Bhagavad Gita? Do you know anything that we can refer to?
So I can give you a couple of suggestions right now.
Okay.
The course that you heard, the Journey of Self-Discovery, there is a book that actually talks about that all the content of it, like a revision. It's called the Journey of Self-Discovery itself.
Okay.
You can get a copy of that book.
Okay.
Srila Prabhupada, the founder of ISKCON, he has written many books. There are small books that
Okay.
that actually pick up different topics of the Gita. Like there's
Okay.
a book called Laws of Nature, which talks about the whole theory of karma very beautifully, you know. So he
Okay.
has written multiple small books that we can help you get access to, which can also help you, you know, study the message of the Gita in a very succinct and a very easy, crisp manner, basically. What we
Okay.
can also do is we can drop on the group a list of books that you can acquire,
Okay.
you know, and some of these books will really help you understand the subject matter easily and more deeply. So
Okay.
we can do that. I'll probably drop this week. I'll drop a few books that you can get and books that will help you all very much. Okay.
All right. Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Anything else? Any other questions or comments? Thank you very much. Very grateful to be with all of y'all. And it's always such a honor and pleasure to serve you all in this way, teaching you all Gita. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you.
Very much.